we have a very distinguished guest. Now, the last time I said distinguished guest, somebody said that, came up with a name, said some famous psychologist name, and they were like, "Yeah, that's your distinguished guest." This guy comes from my interpretation, if I'm not mistaken, in my geography, from across the way. And here's the neat thing about it, right? He's distinguished because he's a musician, producer, artist, songwriter. Like he does all of that stuff. Skills I don't have. I'm just a podcaster, man. That is it. And so I am uh, glad that he has been able to, join the show today. So listen, let's jump into this thing because that's why we're here. We're not here to listen to me talk. We're here to listen to this guy talk. So, with that being said, how are you doing, Dominic?
I am doing all right. It's kind of late-ish here, but it's all right. I've been busy today, so
Oh
yeah.
wow! So it's late over there in your neck of the woods. What time is it over there?
It's not too bad. It's like 8 o'clock. So, but I've
Wow.
been up since like 6 this morning. So,
So
so
so you've been getting
yeah.
it. Wow. All right,
So,
man. Wow. So musician, songwriter, song producer, music producer, all of those things. Um, and I was reading that. I think you said I was reading on it. Don't you have a couple of books too?
yes, I'm now mostly in writing. My music kind of stuff is a bit more in the past now. I'm kind of more focused on my writing now. So I'm sort of in that era era of my career. So I still do music, but not so much working on it now. So, but I just had my last book of poems came out this time last year. So I'm just
Oh,
yeah. So I've that's still in the promotion cycle for that, whilst writing my next books. And I've just finished a chapter with one of my old therapists that I do like workshops with, and that's going to get published in a book, like a book of other, like like a what do you call them, like co-authors book
yep.
that's coming out later this year or next year. So
Wow. So a book of poems, and you're writing many other pieces of literature here. Is it all related to music?
no, they're kind of the same content, really. Like my music, the music my band used to do was ended up being obviously quite focused on personal aspects and like a lot of my mental health and life problems, and a lot of my quite a bit of my writing has been autobiographical. My last book of poems dealt with the death of my friend and the sort of trauma and coming to deal with the traumas around her death. So it was quite a heavy book, but kind of brought to an end a kind of 10 year cycle of grief I'd gone through.
Mm.
So, um, but yeah, so it's all kind of interlinked in it's when you kind of go through the kind of back catalogue of work, it's kind of linked. There's like a nice through line through the work, so it's all interconnected, I think, which if you're it's like after like a 20 odd year career, it's quite nice to have everything be connected in some way, or to look at a body of work and have it tell the story of your life in that sort of personal way. Because I think if you have a body of work that's personal, I think it brings you closer to people that connect to you. And that's how I feel. I feel like I'm connected to my work, and the people that connect to my work connect to me in some level.
Hmm.
That so.
Hmm. Well, and I think life is all about, having some level in some, many areas of our lives, this idea of interconnectivity or this
Mm,
experience of interconnectivity. Because think about it, right? Like, our mental health impacts our career
yeah.
impacts our mental health, our career impacts our family relations and our social relationships, and vice versa. Those impact our career. And so there's, I mean, whether you have children or no children, just husband, wives, et cetera, right? Um, Socioeconomic status has been shown to be significantly relevant to many areas of our lives. And so, uh, I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, when we look at the grand scheme of things, interconnectivity is, I mean, we can never get away from it.
Mm. No, it's true. I think with if with like my music especially, I think there's been the like my music. I started my band when I was in like what the band started in formed in 2000, so it's like 26 years old now, and it's it's made it's been a major part of my life, and the musical journey of that uh, has been a major part of my personal release of my emotion, because I in the early days I wrote like maybe half the music, and my brother was involved as the other songwriter, um, and he wrote the other half. So for the early kind of years of the band, there was this kind of camaraderie, family kind of link tie to it, and there was a lot of uh, life trauma going into the music from my lyric wise, and my side of music, and then obviously his influence into his songs. But then obviously when um, the later years that have just come past, there's been actual family dramas that have happened that have kind of separated that relationship, which has obviously changed the dynamic of the band, and now it's very much a different dynamic. Um, so it's like, as much as the band as a project continues, there's this change in it, if you know what I mean. So it's like, even that as itself, as like you were saying about families and the impact of family has changed this project that has been like 26 years, and it's evolved, but it's evolved on such a personal level as well, that even that's influenced the music that the band makes, and like motifs that have been in the band's music over like 26 years have changed because they've had to change, because certain motives were written by certain people, and like they've got to not be in there anymore. You know what I mean? So it's a bit like, yeah, it's like evolution is kind of um a part of life and a part of mental health. So
I
So yeah.
love the fact that you said that. I've always been a stickler of the idea. A lot of people say that acceptance is the answer to all my problems today, and this, that, and the third, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And I don't fully agree with that idea because you just walked me down a brief timeline of some of the last, I think you said 20 years
Mm,
over, again, just kind of like a brief overview of things. But, and you wrapped it up with evolution. What I do believe that if life was all about, this idea of acceptance,
mm,
I'd still be running around butt ass naked and walking everywhere I go. Think about it though, right? Because I'm not evolving with life, I'm not changing my life.
mm,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
We get older and we grow up, and I've always said this: late 1800s, early 1900s, we didn't have this.
Mm,
You could have any color Model Ford T that you wanted as long as it was black, like all of these things, right? And so, but nowadays you can go buy anything from black to gray silver to black gradient red to
yeah.
freaking pink polka dotted jello. I mean, and so we've evolved into this major system of whatever you want to call it, right? And but that's what life is.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
exactly what life is. And so with that comes, unfortunately and fortunately, depending on the person, depending on the situation, and depending on, the way they heal, um, is mental health concerns, trauma, grief. Grief is a huge one. You spoke about that. So what I know to be true today is grief is a grief is because of love.
mm-hmm,
Love so well we wouldn't grieve.
mm-hmm. Um, yeah. Grief. I have learned a lot about grief in my life, especially with the death of my friend. Um, the the impact of grief. Um, I think I was stunted by grief for a decade in my creative process, especially my writing. Like after when my friend died, I saw my friend die. She it was only me and her when we died. She died. So it was a moment that only me and her shared, kind of thing. So um, after that, the ability to process was like impossible for 10 years until I had the like managed to go to uh, uh, the grief therapy for it, the EMDR therapy for it, and actually was able to do this. And you know, you tell yourself. I mean, I when I was a heroin addict when I was got my when I was I'd started using heroin before she died, but she was going to be the one that was going to help me get off heroin. And then obviously when she died, it was like, what's the fucking point? And then I stayed on it, and it was like you always find reasons not not to move on in your life because your grief is holding you back. And when I went for my grief therapy, of course the main focus was for this trauma, but the depth of the grief is so you even when you suffer it, like the surface level is what you are aware of, but like this, as you go into it to kind of heal yourself or to face it, the depth of how much it's affected you, and the little aspects of it that you don't even realize it's affected you on are so multifaceted that it's like, yeah, I can see why it can affect people for years and years and years and years and years. And if you don't get help for it, it holds you back so much. Like, I mean, I just thought, oh, I had this bit, and I had like survivor's guilt, and I had the feelings of not being good enough because I wasn't able to save her, and I wasn't, this kind of those kind of thoughts. But then there was like just small little details from moments that were just locked in my mind that were so unthought of, that when they came out, they were actually like the biggest pain moments in the therapy, because they were the bits the body had locked so far down that they hadn't even begun to be processed. But then once they were gone and you dealt with them, everything became so much easier, if that makes sense. It's still not easy, but it's you never, I think grief is something you never get over, but I think it's something that it becomes something you can talk about. And I think when you can talk about grief, that's when you can live with grief. I think for me, with my friend's death, I never used to be able to talk about it. Like, I would always clam up and would just like cry and not be able to even mention her name or anything like this. But now I can talk about her. Now I can talk about her memories, and I can talk about even like the bad aspects of the events. And I think that's when grief doesn't have control over you, and you can live with the grief, because it's not got you caged. You're not caged in this prison of grief. And then, yeah, I think that's what I've learned about grief, is that like if you keep it, if you let it trap you, you'll just become focused, obsessed with it. And I like, it's like, I know a lot of my work when I was, it was all about just that moment, that instant. It was all to do with death and trying to understand death. And then as soon as and now I don't want to write about death, it's like I don't want to write about death anymore. I don't want to write about dying or trying to understand the meaning of death and all that lot. It's like, it's done. It's like I want to focus on something that's a bit more happier now, and what I used to focus on, and like, so it's sort of a freeing thing. So
and man, you said a mouthful, and I'm not going to give you the same old adage that everybody says, upon things like that. I think it gets old real quick. Um, but you said something, or not? And you said something. And I think it's important to really highlight. I do a lot of traditional storytelling on where I work at, and traditional storytelling, man. For anybody who's listening or watching, is a ancient technique, very ancient. It's been done for thousands of years. Our ancestors used to practice it, and if you're listening to us. I'm a Caucasian guy, so who's saying this, and this is um, done. Storytelling, traditional storytelling was very dominant or predominant in telling morals and things like that, and it was passed down from generations, through generations, and a lot of it was pre-text or pre-written language. And one of the stories that I just recently did, I think it was last weekend, said something about it was something about a young lady who had been grieving, and she was on the way to she had gone to the river numerous times, and she wanted to throw her or she had gone to the well or river, something like that, and she wanted to throw a ring down the well. And a voice had come up as she was about to throw the ring away, and the voice had come up and said, "Grief is, the pain has nowhere to go, basically." And so the object was, or the moral of that story was, to allow herself to feel grief, but also let it, direct it somewhere, right?
Hmm.
And the next day she had come back to the well or the river, and I forget what the whole outcome was as far as like that, just because it's just I changed up all the stories, but like when she came back to the river the next day, like she had realized that she was able to control and direct where that grief goes, not hide from it and not run from it and not avoid it, but allow herself to kind of like blossom a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. It's when I remember when um, I I I was like accepted to go and to do the PTSD therapy, and I remember going to my friend's grave, and it was during COVID. It was just during COVID, so obviously the whole world had changed. Everything, everyone's locked down. We've all gone through lockdown. Everything's changed, and I remember just sitting at her grave and being like, it was just something like my screen the screen on my screensaver on my phone was a picture of me and her, and it'd been the picture of me and her since she died. So this was like 10 years. That was about 9 years it'd been this picture after her death. And I was just like, you know what, I was sat there, and I was just said to her, I was like, you know what, like, I'm gonna go and have this therapy, and you know I know part of this, I'm realizing now that part of me having to move on is kind of having to forget in a way. And so I was like, sat there, and I was like, okay, like, if you forgive me for, like, if I change my desk, if I change the cover of my phone now to like something that doesn't include you, so like a picture of me, just me on my own, or something like this, or a picture of my cat, if you forgive me for doing this, like, um I'll forgive you for leaving, because we had like a thing of like we'd never leave each other kind of thing. So it's like, I'll forgive you for leaving if you forgive me for getting rid of this picture, and then forgive me for actually going to move on, or making a move that's kind of like forgetting, but it's not forgetting, it's just moving on. And I think the benefit of like COVID in a way was that there was that break in the world that I could never imagine her in that new world, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in my head, I was like, could COVID have happened if she'd still been alive? Like, like there's no, I couldn't visualize her in a post COVID world, because there was no memory in my head of her being in this world where everything was this completely new kind of post-pandemic place. So it was like I was able to give myself a break and say, okay, you know what, I can have a kind of fresh start without you, because you wouldn't be in here anyway, because I don't think the world would have had COVID if you would have stayed alive, kind of thing. But like your story, there's that bit where you're like, you know what, like I can refocus this grief and be like, you know what, like I can focus it here now. And just because I am focusing it here, it doesn't change anything that was, because that's still precious and that's still there. But I'm refocusing the way I think about that past, and I know the thoughts of my friend, and I know that she would be wanting me to do this rather than me sitting here and just not moving forward. And it's sort of giving yourself permission to make a change. And I think that's I think in any sense of mental health or any life change as well, I think it's just allowing yourself that permission to allow yourself to make a change to yourself or a situation, and being like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to let myself do this, and then moving on, or taking the next step to move on. And I think that's when, like, until you give yourself that permission, you kind of never really you can never really move forward until you give yourself that permission to move forward, I think.
Yeah. No, and I want to tag on to what you're saying, because I think I hear a lot of people when I start working with grief and things like that. There's this kind of like, I'm gonna use a word, I'm gonna use it lightly because it's not the one I want to use, but it's the one it kind of like really fits a little bit anyways. But there's this false idea or false representation that I'm going to forget completely, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love what you just said, because you said, like, it's not that I'm having to forget.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of the fact that, hey, I'm stuck in this loop of wanting to relive and relive and relive.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get out of this loop so I can move on, so I can take next steps, so I can continue forward in this lifetime, right? And I want to challenge anybody who's struggling with grief. Like, it's not about forgetting
Mm.
anything or anybody, or no, like it goes back to what you're saying.
It's like a form of forgetting. It's not forgetting.
Yes.
It's like you're allowing yourself to forget just a little bit of this moment, just to allow yourself to move forward. You're not forgetting the person. You're not forgetting. It's the feeling you have is like forgetting, but it's not forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
it's so I totally agree with, like you were saying, it's like you want to say forget, but you're not forgetting. And that's the important thing. It's like letting go. I think letting go's the
Mm-hmm.
word, but I think for me, letting go is a lot worse than forgetting, because to me, letting go means you're saying goodbye, and I'm not saying goodbye to my friend. I'm just saying I'm forgetting your death. That's what I'm forgetting, but I'm remembering your life. Your death bit, I don't want to remember, but your life, I do. And that's what I want to forget is I want to forget your death. I want to forget this grief, but I want to remember your life. And all the good stuff. That's kind of how I saw it in my head, like this little forget that I could do to get over it, but like not let go, because let go to me is like you're gone kind of thing in my head.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you make that distinction, because I mean, grief and trauma and all of these other mental health concerns, right? Whether it's even substance use disorders. I know you said that you struggled with heroin for a while, but all of this stuff is um, very subjective.
Hmm.
And I say that because, you know, I am one of the loudest advocates that, addiction is not a brain disease.
Hmm.
More so, it's a subjective experience. So, what does that drug mean to you? What does that relationship to that drug mean to you? What does that, you know, trauma mean to you? Like, what is this stuff when you experience this stuff? What is it doing for you, right? What is it doing to
Hmm.
you, for you, et cetera, et cetera? Add to that list infinitum. And I think that if we could, at least in my experience, anyways, both personally and professionally, if we can get to that, uh, to those ideals there, we can start asking what does it mean rather than why me. I think
Hmm.
we can help bridge that gap toward, or bridge the struggles toward, you know, what you're saying. It's not the fact that I'm forgetting, but it's more like you know what, I have to be okay regardless of, because if I'm not okay, I'm gonna drown here,
Yeah.
and I don't need to drown. I need to keep pushing forward. And so, how do I push forward?
Yeah.
So I have to figure out what all of this crap over here means while I'm aiming over here, and I have to, as you were saying, and as the story was saying, figure out how to use this stuff rather than just kind of like let it sit there and just hang over me.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you brought this stuff up. I love that.
No, I totally agree, and I agree with you on like with addiction as well. Like, I think uh, the idea of addiction is the same. That it's not just a one all fits all kind of thing. I think there's people have addiction for many different reasons, and it's not just serving a physical need. There's that mental reason for it. It's like, I know when I was on my heroin, I was definitely physically addicted to it, but my physical addiction was much less than my mental kind of addiction to it. Like, I wasn't, I was always maintaining my levels, so I was rarely in a physical addiction, physical withdrawal,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. So, um, and I think the only time I would witness my friends putting themselves through withdrawal all the time just to try and get clean, um, because they believed that was the thing you had to do. Like weekly, sometimes my friend would be going through weekly withdrawals because she was desperate to get clean, and I'd be like, "You're not ready." Like in my head, I'd be like, "You're not ready. Like you don't want to get clean. Like you think people are telling you to get clean, and you want to get clean for people, but you don't want it. Like you know what I mean? It's like you don't want it. Like you don't want it. Like she'll be going to me like, "Why are you not trying to get clean?" And I'm like, "Because I don't want to." Like that's just, it might sound selfish and sad or to you that I'm around you and you're trying to get clean, but I don't want to. I mentally don't want to get clean. So
Yeah.
there's no point me trying to get clean because
Right.
it's just not going to work, you know.
I love oh my god, I love that. I think you're probably one of the first ones I've ever heard say, "Well, why ain't you getting clean?" Hell, I don't want to.
Yeah,
Shit.
it's like, it was like, it's like you know, and then I know I was saying this to another I mean I got ended up getting put on the I got put on like I got put I was in therapy one time and they put me on the buprenorphine, so like the other the pill rather than methadone, and I did it for like 6 months or something like that. But then it was the drug clinic that was telling me, oh, are you selling this to get like drugs, and are you doing this? And I was like, what, I can sell this, like I can give this to my dealers and they'll give me heroin. And they were like, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do to my dealer, you can have this and you can give me heroin again. And it's like, it's crazy, like the people that are meant to help you were the ones that got me back on the drugs, because like I didn't want to get off it. So it was like stupid, like, you know. But then I mean, I remember reading a book. It was one of I used to collect heroin books, obviously, when I was a heroin addict. I used to buy all the fucking books about heroin, and there was one I was reading, and it was they were saying like, never ask, like you never really hear a heroin say how horrible withdrawal is. They just go, oh, it's really bad, I feel really sick, it's the worst thing ever to happen in a thing. But you know, I convinced myself that it's just like the flu. And that's, so I was like, you know, it's something you just got to go through. It's horrible, it's shit, but you've got to go through it. And when I used to get it, yeah, it was horrible, it was shit. And I always gave up, because it's unlike the flu. You can quit it. You can just be like, fuck this. I'm just going to call my dealer. And as soon as you make that decision to call your dealer, you feel really healthy again, enough to go and pick up drugs, and you're not ill anymore. And it's like, so in my head, I was like, you know, this is fucking, a lot of this is just, for me, from my personal experience, my brain is tricking me into, because I used to be saying to like my friend, I was like, look, like, you know, we can finish, if we take our last hit at like midnight, if we know we're picking up tomorrow at 1 p.m, we're perfectly fine until 1 p.m. I said, but if we finish at midnight and we say we're going to quit, by 10 o'clock in the morning, we're withdrawing. And our body's saying we need to pick up because and I was like, there's something there that's not really like a physical thing. It's like it's something that's going on, that's we're convincing ourselves of this. So I was like, that if that's for you, then it's you not wanting to get off it, because you're making yourself sick to stay on it. So just stay on it. And then when lockdown happened, at some point, like there was something that happened, and my dealer couldn't get me any. And I was like, you know what, that's just perfect time for me just to be like, you know what, I'm going to quit. If I can't get it, I can't get it. And I went through the withdrawals, and they were actually horrible. Like, I went through them, but then I was like, once I've gone through them, I'm gonna just not put myself back through it again. But I haven't. But the thing with it is, I know with like heroin, like I wouldn't say I'm like not addicted to it, because I still think about it, if you know what I mean. It's like a constant thing. So it's like it's like the same thing I was saying about with the grief and all that lot. It's there constantly in my mind, and like it's like what, I think 6 years now since I've been clean. But every day my brain is thinking about it, and it will remember it, or it'll be like, oh, do you remember when it did this? Or, oh, do you want to do some heroin? Or so it's like, it's still a daily struggle to like if I see someone but I had to literally cut everyone that I knew, that it's not like I could not be around anyone that did heroin. All my friends from my heroin days had to go, and everyone from that part of my life had to go, because like the temptation of being around it just had to go. Like you couldn't even have like, I was like, I can keep my dealers in my phone number. Gone. It's like gone. Like, so it's again with something like addiction, it's like you have to really be cutting it all out. You can't be like half-hearted as well with that. And again, it's that goes back to what I was saying about giving yourself that permission to say, you know what, like, you've got a chance now, just do it, just take that chance and change it and do it.
Changing the people, places, and things.
Yeah, if you've got the like, it's like, I mean, again, like I didn't want to. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna stop doing like heroin. I was quite happy doing it. But then when it was like the opportunity came, because I mean, my dealer was still giving me crack. I could still get crack, but like I wasn't a big crack fan. But so I was like, I'm not gonna go and call him for crack, because crack was only getting bit because I could get brown with it. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be phoning up for this. So if I can't get this, I'm not going to call for this. And then if I did want to call, I could call for this. But then it was like, I'm not going to call for that, because there might be an off chance that he's going to be, oh, actually, this is back. Do you want some? And then it's like, no, I'm just going to stop and be done with it. So it's sort of, I think, I like in that respect, I think in many ways the COVID was a bit of a godsend for me in a way. But yeah, so I think like for most things like addiction and any kind of mental health changes, you've got to want to make that change. I think like I'm a bit harsh when it comes to things like that. I think it's like you've got to want to make that change. Like you've got to, like, if you really want to change your life, you've got to be like, I want to change this, I want to stop this. And I think, I mean, I've been for like abusive relationships, and I've gone back to them so many times. Like there was one I went back to so many times, and it caused me to have my breakdown, which is why I ended up in the mental health system. And now when I think about it, I'm like, what the fuck did you go back for? Like, just no, fuck off. Just leave. But it's like, you need to have that experience of saying no, just fucking do it, to kind of like get to a point in life where you can be just like, you know what, no, just be more be more assertive in your life, I think. And I think what was it, me and my therapist, we talk about, one of the things we talk about, it's a thing in systemic therapy, and it's called like Finn stories, where you let yourself be known by, like, if you let yourself know by your diagnosis or your addiction, or your kind of, you let yourself be known by your name, or like you let yourself be known by like, oh, I'm just a heroin addict, or I'm just crazy. and you let that story kind of come to define you, that's when I think you start to lose yourself as a person, and you kind of lose your identity. Is because you become this thin story of a facet of yourself. You're not that's not who you are. That's just something you are. It's a part of your life. It's not being a heroin addict, or being like someone that's got a mental health, like being like psychotic or being schizophrenic. That's just a part of your life. The person behind that is you, if you know what I mean. It's the person that makes you is the person. This ailment is just a collection of points that need to be ticked, if you know what I mean. And I think it's always good to be able to remind yourself that you aren't those you aren't just that label of what you think you are. You are actually this big complex person that's led you to this point, and that you are a stronger, multifaceted person that's able to pick yourself up, because to have got to that point, you've been, there's a person that can pick yourself out of that thing. And if you can't, there's people around you that you can help you pick yourself out of that point.
Man, you have said a mouthful, and you are so you are right in many areas here. And I want to touch back on something, because some people might be listening or watching and say they don't that they might disagree with you on certain things earlier that you said, where you made the comment that if we stop at 12 or stop at midnight, and then, well, if we know we're picking up at 1
Mm,
at next afternoon, we're not going to hit any withdrawals until we can't get it at 1, right? We're going to be all right up until 1. And if I know that I'm in withdrawals, as soon as I get the phone call to say, hey, I'm good, right, we start becoming physically better. Actually, research supports the idea that when we condition ourselves, and this is for anybody who's listening, because you know this,
mm,
research supports the fact that, as far as withdrawals from opioids is concerned, our body can start physiologically preparing itself for an influx of drugs, because it knows it's coming, right?
mm-hmm,
It knows it's coming here. Therefore, the withdrawals go from severe to mild or moderate way before any drugs were even put into the system, right?
mm-hmm,
And that's just and that's similar to what happens when people have been sober for a while, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. People can still experience, they're not true opioid withdrawals, but it's still withdrawals, right?
mm-hmm,
And because it's the same feelings, it's the same symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. Because your body never forgets, your brain never forgets, because you
mm,
lived out for, however many years. You did it for so long. And I want to challenge anybody, like, read the research on that. So, I definitely 100% second what you were saying there, and you make good points too. And I'm going to come back to what you were talking about, this second part here. If I say, "Oh, I'm just a drunk," I'm putting this label on me, this self-imposed limitation, uh, and I think recovery is being reconnected with ourselves.
mm-hmm,
Part of that being reconnected with ourselves is realizing, number one, first and foremost, I am a human being. Wow. Just the thought of that, just like
mm-hmm,
goes from here to like, I am a human being first and foremost, and everybody else around me are human beings. And then I can say, And then I can throw all these labels on there. Oh, I'm a therapist, or oh, I'm a musician, or hey, I'm a person in recovery. I can start adding all these other values and these judgments and labels on there, all I want. But I think being, in order to get reconnected with ourselves, I think it's acknowledging the fact and realizing the fact that I'm always going to be a human being first.
Hmm.
I was a human being before, we became schizophrenics. We were human beings before we became addicted to heroin or addicted to alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, what have you. We were a human being way before bipolar diagnoses. We were uh, a human being before we even received a cancer diagnosis. If that's what, if whoever is struggling with cancer, um, or any other type of health problem, we're always going to be a human being. And I think if we can do that, right, if we start looking at ourselves like that, first and foremost, as you said, I love, love, love what you said, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that is the essence of being reconnected with ourselves, right?
Hmm.
And being able to acknowledge the fact that, hey, something needs to give. I need to change. This needs to change. Or, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give this medical treatment a try. Or, yeah, I'm going to give this clinic over here a try. Or, yeah, I'm going to go talk to my therapist. Or, I'm going to go get connected with a therapist, because we're realizing where our flaws are, that we're all in the same boat, right?
Hmm.
Essentially, regardless. And that's got nothing to do with, race, ethnicity, country of origin, age, gender, spirituality, religious beliefs. It's got nothing to
Hmm.
do um, because am I trying to limit myself, right? Or am I trying to open the sky up and make it where the sky is not the limit anymore,
Yeah.
right? Am I trying to raise my own limits here? Uh, because I'm not saying society never sets standards on us. It does. I mean, of course,
Hmm.
I can't get out there on Interstate 40 and drive like the freaking Fast and the
Yeah.
Furious folks, right? So, like, we got to have societal standards, but I also think it goes back to a lot of what exactly what you were saying is the things that I do too that also equally matter. Because if I'm looking at myself as just a drug addict, oh, I'm just a drug addict. Well, let's look at what this stuff says and does to us. Oh, I'm just a unworthy person. Well, I'm a act unworthy. I'm gonna treat
Hmm.
myself unworthy. Oh, I'm unlovable. Well, I'm gonna unlove myself. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Oh,
Exactly.
I'm just a drug addict. Well, I'm gonna treat myself as just a drug addict.
Hmm.
So much more than that. And so I love that you brought that up.
It's, I think as well, like, um, one of my traits that I used to have, um, that I had growing up, uh, and until like recently, um, was I would always kind of be what people expected me of me, or people uh, would say I was. So, um, like I remember one of the things I remember being when I was in high school. One of the things everyone thought I'd grow up to be was a heroin addict. Say that's the only thing you're going to achieve in life is be a heroin addict. So when eventually I became a heroin addict, I was like, well, I've achieved the one thing in life everyone told me I would do. So wait, you know, and I took it as this big like accomplishment in my head that, oh, I've done this. So it was like it took away any thought in my head like, oh fuck, I'm a heroin addict. Oh, it's really shit. It's like, oh, actually, you know what? I've achieved the one thing that everyone thought I was going to achieve, so no one can be mad at me. But then when I was in, I'd kind of got clean, um, and then I was in a relationship with someone, and they were like, when you're out at work, when I'm out at work, you're just sat at home doing drugs. And I was like, well, I'm not really. And they're like, yeah, you are. And then I was like, you know what? If I'm sat at home doing doing nothing, and you're saying I'm sat at home doing drugs, I might as well just be sat at home doing drugs. So I ended up just being sat at home doing drugs. And I was like, well, what's the point? Like, you're saying that's what I'm doing, so I might as well just be doing it, because either way, I'm going to be getting the same amount of flack if I wasn't. So it's kind of like, that's how I used to process things. It's like, oh, you're saying I'm a drug addict, I might as well be a drug addict. And then of course you ended up being like a drug addict again for another few years. But it's like,
Right.
it's sort of in that mindset. I had to kind of challenge myself. And it's, again, like when we did the sort of the trauma therapy, it's trauma that gets traced back to your childhood that you never thought of, but it's something you can, once you've acknowledged it, or you've it's been something you've acknowledged and you are aware of, it's something you can challenge, because it's something, there's bits now that I can be like, you know what, like, I can admit that I have been not a bad person. I won't say I've been a bad person. I've made mistakes in my life, and I've treated some people not very well. And I can accept that, and I can accept that I was wrong in those cases. But by the same token, I'm allowed to acknowledge that I have been treated badly by people, and that is not okay. And I don't have to accept that it was okay. So it's like, I like, as much as people can be like, you treated me horribly, and I'm like, okay, I know I did, and I'm sorry that I did, and I can accept that you're upset with me, but I can also feel that the way that person does to other people, and it might even be to that person that says I treated them badly, because they could also treat me badly. If it's in a relationship, I could admit in a relationship with someone I was horrible, but they might have also been horrible to me. That's how relationships go. But you've just got to accept that. But you can also accept that something that, like, there's like, now in my 40s, I have to look back at my childhood, and I have this memory of my childhood that is one way I grew up thinking was quite nice. But now as a 40-year-old, I have to look back at it and be like, oh, actually, you know what? No, it wasn't nice. I didn't deserve that. And I'm a right to feel this way. So it's like, as a person, or anyone, you have that right to look at your life and say, no, that wasn't right. I didn't deserve that. And I don't have to accept that going on. So if you're gonna say to me like, oh, like, say if I had a partner now that said to me like, oh, you're just at home doing drugs, rather than be like, oh, you know what, yeah, fuck it, I'm just gonna do that, I'd be like, you know what, you don't fucking know me. You weren't around when I was doing drugs. So who are you to judge me by a standard you weren't there for? Because, you've known me since I've been sober. So who are you to judge me by a standard that you weren't here for? So I think that's when you like, when you get to a point, you have that power to stand up to someone and say, well, you know what, you haven't got the right to judge me by that standard. Were you there? Like, you know, were you involved in that point? You know, and then you can kind of claim that ownership of like, to me, like, I'm not ashamed of my being a junkie or being a heroin addict. Like, that was a part of my life, and if someone wants to throw it in my face and say you're a heroin addict, it's like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, you know, what do you want me to do about it? I can't do anything about it. I can't go back in time and vomit up all the heroin. You know, so it's like, but who is that person to hold it over me? Unless they were someone that was involved at that point in my life that I hurt, then they can't come and ask me for, oh, can you say sorry to me because you really hurt me in that time of your life? And then if I did acknowledge, if I did hurt them, and I speak to them and I'm like, oh fuck, I really did hurt you and I didn't mean to, I can make amends. But otherwise, me being a heroin addict doesn't affect anyone else's life other than, you know what I mean, that kind of.
Yeah. No, and I think you're right on point here because it's my job. Like, so my values and my goals and my future is more important to me than it is for anybody else, right? I
Mm-hmm,
have to learn how to advocate for myself.
mm-hmm,
And so, unfortunately, we run into people in healthcare and social relationships. I love that you even said that earlier too. That people, at the clinic were saying that, oh, well, you're doing this, ain't you? And they were already setting you up for failure. It's like, well, do you want me to succeed or do you want me to fail? Like,
mm-hmm,
what's your goal here? Because my life is my life, my history is my history, and I can't change my history just because you want me to change it, just because you don't want to hear about my history, just because you're ashamed of it. Like, hey, listen, it is what it is. I ain't stressing over it. My history don't impact nobody today, to the
mm-hmm,
best of my knowledge, anyways. If you're still mad at me for something I did 20,000 years ago, then listen, that's on you. They ain't got nothing to do with me. I've done my best, as you said, to
mm-hmm,
make amends. Both living amends and direct amends to the best of my human ability. I've tried, right, and so if we're living honestly to the best of our ability in those areas, like you said, do you even have the right to judge me based on my past?
mm-hmm.
You didn't know me. You weren't there when I was
Exactly.
struggling with the misery and when I was
Mm-hmm,
going through the early state, right? Like, and there's this huge misconception of substance use is not even funny, both in the social in society and in the healthcare sector. It's still highly stigmatized, and it's sad. And that's how if we don't take the right approach with people, we can destroy them and continue to be a burden to the recovery community, to the substance use community. And I hope that anybody who listens to this show or watches us or follows us on social media realizes this too, is the goal in life is not to stigmatize people or even subsidize, negative, harmful, impactful behaviors. It's not neither nor is neither or there. The
mm-hmm,
goal is to be a voice, be a force, for change, for support, all of those things. Exactly what you were just saying. Exactly what you were just saying. Uh, and help people to realize they do have a voice, regardless
mm-hmm,
of who you are, you do have a voice. whether you're woman, whether you're male, whether you're black, Chinese, white, Applejack, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're active addiction or even in recovery. Doesn't matter. You still have a voice and find your voice. Yeah, 100%. That's my thought processes on it.
Was that?
I said that's my thought processes on it.
Yeah, I think everyone should be like entitled to have their voice and to, you know, be able to speak their voice. I think as like, it's everyone, everyone has a story, and they should be allowed to at least express their story equally.
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes this is a struggle. So let me ask you this, because I can keep you, man, I've enjoyed this. I have enjoyed this. I can keep you for another 2, 3 hours if you let me. And it's interesting because this is the second podcast I've ever done where nobody asked questions. That is so interesting. Did you notice that?
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Uh, where do you feel your voice going next? And I say your voice meaning your persona, yourself, some of your path in life. Like, what are some of the next steps for you moving forward?
Um, I think with my writing, I've the direction of my writing, um, the I'm kind of focusing the direction more on memory, not like personal memory, but the function of memory in life, and how the fragileness of memory. One of the series I'm working on is about language and how we use our voice, so how we communicate. So one is kind of how we tell our stories, and then how we experience life, and then obviously the third part will be what we don't say and how that comes back to affect our future, kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of our life is affected by our memories, like our past and our future, but not just like our personal memories, but also our like community memories, our um, communal memories. I was thinking of doing something the other day. I was editing something about my books, and one of my first books is about doing mushrooms on the underground, called the Mushroom Diaries, and it's set in Camden. I live in Camden, but the first chapter goes into a corner shop, and the shop is my local now, and I literally live opposite where this whole novel took place, uh, written about like 20 years ago, or set 20 years ago. Um, and I was thinking about how, with my work being a lot localized in London, it's quite funny how dating it is, because the locations are there, but then obviously because London changes so frequently, these locations, the places are still there, but the the locations are different. Like it's no longer a Starbucks, say, it's something else. So if someone reads my novel and they go to this place, the location will be there, the building will be there, but it won't be a HMV. I think it's a Primark now. So I think like these memories are kind of this interesting concept, because it's like, even you can like if you pick up different books, and you like, I think same like books in America, like you can pick up books and say it's this place, and you go there and it's like something completely different, and you're like, oh, but no, this I know exactly where that is though. So I find this fascinating, and yeah, and then I think that's where my work with that is going, and so yeah, and then I think music wise, I'm working on some music. Don't know when it'll be finished, but I'm working on it. But I'm doing a new album, I think. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. And people want to reach out to you, maybe get you to speak on their show, maybe get you to be a mentor, maybe even do a performance for them. Maybe connect with you, do some mentoring, menteeship, maybe even, um, help them write music or anything. Buy some of your books. How, and where can they contact you and find that information?
my website is dominicline.com, and there's a contact me bit in there. You can contact me through there, and I'll get back to you, anyone. So, and it's got all my details and body of work.
I
So,
love it. I love it. All right. And last but not least, what is one thing you hope somebody will take away from this?
I hope it makes someone feel like they can I don't know, feel good about themselves, and feel like they're not alone, and make someone challenge themselves, challenge their story, their thin story. You're not just a something, you're a person, you're like you said, you're a human, you're full, you're not just a thin story, you're a multifaceted person.
Hmm. My challenge to anyone watching this, listen, almost 99% of our shows, I show up with a Propel water bottle. Listen, if you know somebody at Propel, get them to sponsor the show. Like, geez. Okay, I'm pushing this. I'm pushing the water for them. It's free advertisement for them. Tell them we need some sponsorship.
There you
That's
are,
all.
sponsor.
Right. Tell them, Propel, whoever, if you work there, let your supervisor know, let the legal team know. We want a sponsor. We want Propel to be our sponsor. All right. That being said, folks, listen, I do appreciate y'all checking us out today. Uh, I appreciate Mr. Dominique showing up. It's been a phenomenal experience. Man, I really love this guy. He is a phenomenal guy.
Thank
And
you.
so until next time, folks, because he's coming back, right?
Oh, cool.
There's so much to learn here. There's
Definitely.
so much to hear. So with that being said, Mr. Dominique, appreciate you again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Um, and with that, listen, folks, uh, if you need any help, there's resources out there. If you live in the western part of the world, 911 and 988 are two of your emergency numbers for either emergency, services, or the crisis and suicide hotline number. You have local emergency departments, local crisis centers too. And if you live in the eastern part of the world, I don't know what those numbers are, but you can use them. So seek help, use your resources, and thank y'all for staying tuned for us. I'm going to end the live. Don't go nowhere.